Senator Anna Thompson loved the whoop-whoop-whoop of helicopter blades. It wasn't just a noise to her, it was the sound of freedom, of getting things done, of seeing the world from a different angle. After years of living in Washington, D.C., bouncing between stuffy offices and crowded airports, she'd finally bought a house. Not just any house, but a beautiful, sprawling place in the suburbs with enough land to, well, land a helicopter. Anna wasn't your typical politician. She preferred jeans and a t-shirt to power suits when she wasn't on duty, and her down-to-earth attitude made her surprisingly popular, even across party lines. Moving into the quiet, manicured neighborhood was a big change, but she was looking forward to putting down roots, maybe even starting a garden. The house was perfect, but it needed something extra, a helipad. Anna used her helicopter to quickly travel back and forth to Washington, and sometimes even to visit family across the state. It was practical, efficient, and, okay, maybe a little bit fun. She imagined zipping off to work in the morning, waving to the neighbors as she ascended. Little did she know, her love of helicopters was about to cause a whole lot of trouble in her brand new, perfectly peaceful suburban life. The HOA, it turned out, had very specific ideas about what was acceptable in their little slice of paradise, and a helicopter pad definitely wasn't on the approved list. The Harmony Glades Homeowners Association, or HOA, was a force to be reckoned with. It wasn't just a group of neighbors, it was a well-oiled machine of rules, regulations, and very strong opinions. Every lawn had to be perfectly manicured, every house painted in one of 3 approved shades of beige, and every holiday decoration displayed with meticulous precision. The HOA president, Mrs. Eleanor Abernathy, was the queen bee of Harmony Glades. She had lived there for over 30 years and took her role very seriously. She knew every rule by heart and wasn't afraid to enforce them, often with a clipboard in hand and a stern look on her face. The other members of the HOA board were equally dedicated to maintaining the community standards. There was Mr. Peterson, the retired accountant who scrutinized every budget line item, Mrs. Rodriguez, the landscape architect who ensured every bush was perfectly pruned, and Mr. Davis, the lawyer who specialized in HOA law. Harmony Glades was beautiful, no doubt about it. The streets were clean, the lawns were green, and the houses were picture-perfect. But it also felt a little stifling. There wasn't much room for individuality, for creativity, or for anything that deviated from the norm. And a helicopter pad? Well, that was definitely not the norm. Senator Anna was about to learn just how seriously the Harmony Glades HOA took its rules. Anna, being a responsible homeowner, and a senator, used to navigating bureaucratic processes, decided to get the necessary approvals before starting construction. She carefully read through the HOA guidelines, which were surprisingly thick. She found a section on exterior modifications, and filled out the application, clearly stating her intention to build a helicopter pad. She submitted the application, along with detailed blueprints and a promise to adhere to all safety regulations. Weeks went by, and Anna heard nothing. Assuming that, no news is good news, she took it as tacit approval. After all, she reasoned, if they had an issue, they would have contacted her. Right? In reality, her application had been buried under a mountain of complaints about overgrown hedges and misplaced trash cans. Mrs. Abernathy, preoccupied with a dispute over the precise shade of petunias allowed in the community garden, hadn't even seen it. Mr. Peterson had glanced at it, muttered something about unnecessary extravagance, and promptly filed it in the pending pile, which was essentially the HOA's version of a black hole. So, with what she believed was official permission, Anna hired a construction crew and gave them the green light. She imagined the smooth, concrete circle, ready for her helicopter to land gracefully. She even pictured herself offering rides to the neighborhood kids, after proper safety training, of course. The reality, however, was about to be very different. The whirring of construction equipment was about to awaken a sleeping giant, the Harmony Glades HOA, and especially its president, Mrs. Abernathy. The rumble of bulldozers and the clang of metal shattered the morning tranquility of Harmony Glades. Curtains twitched, and perfectly manicured lawns were momentarily forgotten as residents peeked out their windows to see what the commotion was. Construction equipment was parked on Senator Anna's property, and workers were already digging a large, circular hole. Whispers rippled through the neighborhood like a summer breeze carrying pollen. What is she building? Is that even allowed? Did she get permission? The HOA grapevine, usually buzzing with gossip about garden gnomes and mailbox placement, was now overloaded with speculation about the mysterious construction project. Mrs. Abernathy, alerted by a flurry of frantic phone calls, arrived on the scene with her trusty clipboard in hand. Her perfectly coiffed hair bounced as she marched towards the construction site, her eyes narrowed in disapproval. She surveyed the scene, taking in the scale of the project with growing dismay. A helicopter pad? In Harmony Glades? Unthinkable. Other HOA board members soon joined her, their faces etched with concern. Mr. Peterson clutched his chest, muttering about property values. Mrs. Rodriguez worried about the impact on the local ecosystem. Mr. Davis began flipping through the HOA rulebook, searching for any clause that could be used to halt the construction. The atmosphere was thick with tension. The construction workers, oblivious to the brewing storm, continued their work, their loud machinery a stark contrast to the hushed whispers of the HOA members. It was clear that a confrontation was inevitable. The question was, what would Mrs. Abernathy do? Mrs. Abernathy, fueled by a potent mix of outrage and responsibility, launched a full-scale investigation. She started by contacting the local zoning office, demanding to know if Senator Anna had obtained the necessary permits. She rifled through the HOA archives, searching for any mention of a helicopter pad or similar requests. She even enlisted the help of Mr. Peterson, whose meticulous record-keeping skills proved invaluable. The more she dug, the more suspicious she became. There was no record of a permit request. There was no mention of a helicopter pad in the HOA guidelines, which, to be fair, covered everything from acceptable fence heights to the proper disposal of Christmas trees. And, perhaps most damning of all, there was no evidence that Senator Anna had even attended a single HOA meeting. Mrs. Abernathy felt a surge of righteous indignation. This was a clear violation of community standards, a blatant disregard for the rules that held Harmony Glades together. She couldn't let this stand. She had a duty to protect the integrity of the neighborhood, even if it meant confronting a United States senator. She gathered her evidence, copies of the HOA guidelines, printouts from the zoning office website, and a handwritten list of grievances from concerned neighbors, and prepared for battle. She knew that confronting Senator Anna wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to uphold the rules, no matter the cost. The helicopter pad, in her mind, was a symbol of anarchy, a threat to the carefully curated order of Harmony Glades. And she, Eleanor Abernathy, was its sworn protector. Armed with her evidence and a determined spirit, Mrs. Abernathy marched across the street to Senator Anna's house. She took a deep breath, smoothed her perfectly tailored dress, and rang the doorbell. Anna, covered in dirt from her fledgling garden, answered the door with a warm smile. "Hello. I don't believe we've met. I'm Anna Thompson, your new neighbor." Mrs. Abernathy, taken aback by Anna's friendly demeanor, momentarily faltered. "Eleanor Abernathy," she replied, her voice a bit less stern than she had intended. "President of the Harmony Glades Homeowners Association." "Oh, wonderful. Please, come in," Anna said, gesturing towards the living room. Mrs. Abernathy hesitated, then stepped inside. "I'm afraid I'm here on official business," she said, holding up her clipboard. "I'm here to discuss the construction project in your backyard." Anna's smile faded slightly. "Ah, the helipad. Is there a problem?" "A problem?" Mrs. Abernathy exclaimed, her voice rising in pitch. "There are several problems. First and foremost, we have no record of you submitting an application for approval. Second, a helicopter pad is highly irregular and potentially violates numerous HOA regulations. And third, I should have checked in with you sooner, Anna interrupted, her tone conciliatory. I apologize. I assumed that since I hadn't heard back, everything was fine. Perhaps we can discuss this over a cup of tea. I'd be happy to explain my reasoning and address any concerns you may have. Mrs. Abernathy, slightly disarmed by Anna's reasonable response, agreed to a cup of tea. The confrontation, for now, remained civil, but the tension was palpable. The battle lines had been drawn. The cup of tea did little to quell Mrs. Abernathy's determination. In fact, it seemed to fuel her resolve. Back at her own house, she dove deeper into her investigation. This wasn't just about the helipad anymore, it was about principle. She meticulously reviewed every single HOA rule, highlighting anything that could remotely relate to the construction project. Setback requirements, noise ordinances, aesthetic guidelines, nothing was overlooked. She even unearthed a long-forgotten clause about prohibited aerial activities, which, while intended to prevent kite-flying contests, she felt could be creatively interpreted. She spent hours on the phone with the zoning office, badgering them for more information about permits and regulations. She learned that Senator Anna had indeed applied for permits, but they were still under review. This confirmed her suspicions. Anna was trying to circumvent the proper channels. But Mrs. Abernathy didn't stop there. She started digging into the HOA's past, uncovering old disputes and unresolved grievances. She discovered that several residents had been denied permission for seemingly minor modifications to their properties, like adding a small patio or changing their front door color. The helipad, in her eyes, was a slap in the face to these long-suffering homeowners. She compiled a comprehensive dossier, a testament to her unwavering commitment to upholding the rules of Harmony Glades. This dossier wasn't just about the helipad, it was about fairness, about consistency, and about preserving the unique character of their community. Mrs. Abernathy was ready to fight, and she had the ammunition to win. Determined to smooth things over and foster good neighborly relations, Anna decided to take a different approach. She baked a batch of her famous chocolate-chip cookies and, the next morning, walked across the street to Mrs. Abernathy's house. "Eleanor," she said with a warm smile, "I was hoping we could chat again. I brought cookies." Mrs. Abernathy, surprised by Anna's gesture, reluctantly invited her in. The cookies did smell delicious, but she wasn't about to let them sway her. Over coffee, Anna explained her job in more detail. "I'm a senator," she said, hoping to clarify any misunderstandings. "I represent our state in Washington, D.C. I often need to travel quickly, and a helicopter is the most efficient way for me to get back and forth so I can do my job properly and still live here." She emphasized her commitment to safety and her willingness to work with the HOA to address any concerns. She offered to install noise-dampening equipment, limit the number of flights per week, and even contribute to a community fund to offset any perceived decrease in property values. Anna genuinely wanted to be a good neighbor. She understood that her helipad was unconventional, but she hoped that with open communication and a willingness to compromise, she could win over Mrs. Abernathy and the rest of the HOA. What she didn't realize was that Mrs. Abernathy was about to misunderstand everything she said. As Anna spoke, Mrs. Abernathy listened intently, but her mind was already jumping to conclusions. "Senator," she mused, stirring her coffee. "That's nice. Is that like being the president of the garden club, or something?" Anna blinked, slightly taken aback. "No, not exactly. I'm a United States Senator. I was elected by the people of our state." Mrs. Abernathy nodded slowly, but her expression remained unconvinced. She knew that Harmony Glades had several seniors who were active in various clubs and organizations. Perhaps Senator Anna was just a particularly enthusiastic member of one of them. Maybe it was some sort of senior citizen group. "Well, that's all very impressive, dear," Mrs. Abernathy said, patting Anna's hand condescendingly. "But I'm afraid that doesn't change the fact that you're building a helicopter pad without proper authorization. And while I appreciate your offer to contribute to the community fund, I'm not sure that money can buy you a free pass to disregard our HOA rules." Anna realized that her attempt to clarify things had backfired spectacularly. Mrs. Abernathy clearly had no idea what a United States Senator actually did, or the level of authority that came with the position. This was going to be even more difficult than she had anticipated. "Eleanor," Anna said, trying to remain patient, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." But Mrs. Abernathy cut her off. "I understand perfectly, dear. You're new here, and you're not familiar with how things work in Harmony Glades. But I assure you, we take our rules very seriously." The day the helicopter arrived was a spectacle unlike anything Harmony Glades had ever witnessed. The roar of the engine echoed through the perfectly manicured streets as the sleek, silver machine descended gracefully onto the newly completed helipad. Mrs. Abernathy, who had been meticulously documenting the construction progress from her living room window, watched in disbelief. Her face turned a shade of red usually reserved for overripe tomatoes. This was an outrage. A blatant disregard for everything she stood for. Other neighbors reacted with a mix of curiosity and concern. Some, mostly children, were thrilled by the sight of the helicopter, waving excitedly as it landed. Others, mostly older residents, worried about the noise, the safety, and the potential impact on their property values. The HOA grapevine went into overdrive. Phones rang off the hook, emails flooded inboxes, and impromptu meetings were held on street corners. The helicopter had become a symbol of division in Harmony Glades, splitting the community into those who were willing to tolerate a little disruption and those who were fiercely opposed to anything that deviated from the norm. For Mrs. Abernathy, the arrival of the helicopter was the final straw. It was time to take action. She knew that she had to do something drastic to protect the integrity of Harmony Glades, even if it meant calling in reinforcements. And by reinforcements, she meant the authorities. An emergency HOA meeting was called, and the atmosphere was electric. Every seat was filled, and people were standing along the walls, eager to voice their opinions about the helicopter pad. The usual agenda items, landscaping updates, parking regulations, and holiday decoration guidelines, were quickly brushed aside. Everyone knew what the main topic of discussion was: Senator Anna's helipad. Mrs. Abernathy, looking every bit the stern judge, gavelled the meeting to order. She announced that the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the unauthorized construction and operation of a private helicopter landing facility within the Harmony Glades community. She then opened the floor for discussion, and a cacophony of voices erupted. Some residents praised Anna for bringing a touch of excitement to their otherwise mundane lives. Others condemned her for disregarding the rules and disrupting the peace. Mr. Peterson presented charts and graphs showing the potential decline in property values due to the noise and safety concerns. Mrs. Rodriguez worried about the impact on local bird populations. Mr. Davis, the HOA lawyer, droned on about zoning regulations and legal liabilities. Anna, sitting quietly in the back of the room, listened patiently as her neighbors aired their grievances. She knew that she had an uphill battle ahead of her, but she was determined to defend her right to have a helipad and to find a way to coexist peacefully with the Harmony Glades community. The stage was set for a showdown. Mrs. Abernathy, seizing the opportunity, launched into a carefully prepared presentation. She displayed enlarged copies of the HOA rules, highlighting clauses that she believed Anna had violated. She cited the lack of prior approval, the potential for noise pollution, and the aesthetic impact of the helipad on the community. She then moved on to safety concerns. A helicopter landing in the middle of our residential neighborhood poses a significant risk to our residents, she declared, her voice trembling with indignation. What if there's an accident? What if the helicopter malfunctions and crashes into someone's house? Finally, she addressed the issue of property values. We all invested in Harmony Glades because of its beauty, its tranquility, and its sense of community, she said, her voice softening slightly. A helicopter pad will undoubtedly diminish our property values and make it harder for us to sell our homes in the future. She concluded her presentation with a dramatic flourish, urging the HOA members to vote in favor of ordering Anna to remove the helipad immediately. Her speech was met with thunderous applause from those who shared her concerns. Mrs. Abernathy felt a surge of satisfaction. She had presented a compelling case, and she was confident that she had swayed the majority of the HOA members to her side. Now, it was Anna's turn to defend herself. Anna stood up, took a deep breath, and approached the podium. She spoke calmly and respectfully, addressing each of Mrs. Abernathy's points with thoughtful responses. "I understand your concerns about the helipad," she began. "And I want to assure you that I take them very seriously." She explained that her job as a senator required her to travel frequently between Harmony Glades and Washington, D.C. "The helicopter is the most efficient way for me to do that," she said. "It allows me to spend more time in our community and still fulfill my responsibilities to our state." She addressed the safety concerns by highlighting the advanced safety features of her helicopter and her commitment to following all FAA regulations. She also offered to work with the HOA to develop a comprehensive safety plan that would address any potential risks. Regarding property values, she presented data showing that the presence of a private airport or helipad did not necessarily decrease property values. In some cases, it even increased them. She reiterated her offer to contribute to a community fund to offset any perceived negative impact. "I believe that we can find a way to coexist peacefully," she concluded. "I'm willing to work with you, to compromise, and to address your concerns. I just ask that you give me a chance." Her speech was met with a mixture of applause and skeptical silence. Some residents were clearly moved by her sincerity and her willingness to compromise. Others remained unconvinced, clinging to their fears and prejudices. The battle for the hearts and minds of Harmony Glades was far from over. After Anna's presentation, the meeting descended into chaos. Residents began shouting over each other, their voices filled with anger, frustration, and fear. The carefully constructed facade of Harmony Glades civility crumbled, revealing the deep divisions that had been simmering beneath the surface. "She thinks she's above the rules," someone yelled from the back of the room. "She's a senator. She's supposed to be representing us, not disrupting our lives," another voice shouted. "But she's offering to compromise," a woman countered. "We should at least consider her proposals." "Compromise? She built a helicopter pad without our permission. That's not compromise, that's arrogance." Mrs. Abernathy tried to maintain order, banging her gavel repeatedly, but her efforts were futile. The meeting had spiraled out of control. Sides were clearly chosen, those who supported Anna, those who opposed her, and those who were simply confused and overwhelmed by the whole situation. Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Rodriguez, staunch allies of Mrs. Abernathy, vehemently denounced Anna's actions. Other residents, emboldened by Anna's willingness to compromise, spoke out in her defense. The meeting dragged on for hours, with no resolution in sight. The only thing that was clear was that the Harmony Glades community was deeply fractured, and the helicopter pad had become a symbol of everything that divided them. Mrs. Abernathy, feeling increasingly desperate, decided to resort to her ultimate weapon, calling the authorities. Seizing a brief lull in the shouting, Mrs. Abernathy pulled out her cell phone and marched outside. With trembling fingers, she dialed 911. "I need to report a crime," she said, her voice tight with indignation. "There's illegal construction taking place in my neighborhood. A woman is building a helicopter pad without proper permits, and it's a serious safety hazard." She provided the dispatcher with Anna's address and a breathless account of the events leading up to this moment. She emphasized the potential danger to the community and the blatant disregard for the law. "This woman is a menace," she declared. "She thinks she can do whatever she wants, just because she's, well, I don't know what she is, but she's clearly not respecting our community." The dispatcher assured her that officers would be dispatched to the scene immediately. Mrs. Abernathy, feeling a surge of vindication, returned to the meeting room, her head held high. She had done her duty. She had protected Harmony Glades from the threat of anarchy. Inside, the meeting was still in disarray, but Mrs. Abernathy didn't care. She knew that the authorities were on their way, and soon, Senator Anna's reign of terror would come to an end. Or so she thought. She had no idea that calling 911 was about to unleash a whole new level of chaos. A few minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up to the Harmony Glades Community Center, sirens blaring. The officers, looking slightly bewildered, entered the room and were immediately met with a barrage of accusations and explanations. "She's building a helicopter pad without permits," Mrs. Abernathy exclaimed, pointing dramatically at Anna. "It's a safety hazard. It's going to lower our property values," someone else shouted. "She's a senator. She needs it for her job," a woman countered. The officers, clearly overwhelmed by the conflicting information, tried to regain control of the situation. "Okay, everyone, calm down," one of them said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Let's start from the beginning. Who called 911? Mrs. Abernathy stepped forward, her chest puffed out with pride. "I did. I reported illegal construction and a potential safety hazard." The officer turned to Anna. "Ma'am, can you explain what's going on here?" Anna, looking slightly exasperated, stepped forward. "I'm Senator Anna Thompson, and I recently built a helipad on my property. I submitted an application to the HOA, but I haven't received a response. I believe that meant my application was approved." The officers exchanged confused glances. This was definitely not your average neighborhood dispute. They had been expecting a simple construction violation, not a political showdown. The situation was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Seeing the officers' confusion, Anna decided it was time to make her identity crystal clear. She reached into her purse and pulled out her official Senate identification card. "Here," she said, handing the card to one of the officers. "This is my official identification. I am a United States Senator, representing this state." The officer examined the card closely, his eyes widening in surprise. He passed it to his partner, who looked equally astonished. They had dealt with their fair share of neighborhood disputes, but never one involving a high-ranking government official. "I understand that there may be some concerns about the helipad," Anna continued, "but I assure you that I have followed all applicable regulations and safety standards. I submitted an application to the HOA, and I am working to address any concerns that my neighbors may have." She explained the importance of the helicopter for her job and her commitment to being a responsible member of the community. She also emphasized her willingness to compromise and find a solution that would satisfy everyone. The officers, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, turned to Mrs. Abernathy, who was standing nearby with a stunned expression on her face. "Ma'am," one of them said, "are you aware that this woman is a United States Senator?" Mrs. Abernathy's jaw dropped. She had been so focused on enforcing the HOA rules that she had completely overlooked the possibility that Senator Anna might actually be a real senator. This was a game changer. The officers, now grappling with the unexpected complexities of the situation, stepped aside to confer in hushed tones. They were clearly out of their depth. "So, what do we do?" one officer whispered. "Can we arrest a senator for violating HOA rules?" "I don't know," the other replied. "Does senatorial privilege extend to helicopter pads?" "This is way above my pay grade." After a few minutes of frantic phone calls to their superiors, they returned to address the crowd. "Okay, folks," one of them said, "this is a delicate situation. We understand that there are concerns about the helipad, but we also need to respect Senator Thompson's position and her need to travel for her job." He explained that HOA rules were generally enforceable, but there could be exceptions in certain circumstances. He also pointed out that Senator Thompson had applied for permits and was willing to work with the HOA to address any concerns. "Ultimately," he said, "this is a matter that needs to be resolved between the HOA and Senator Thompson. We're not going to take any enforcement action at this time." The officer's ambiguous explanation left everyone feeling frustrated and confused. Mrs. Abernathy was outraged that the police weren't taking her complaint seriously. Anna was relieved that she wasn't going to be arrested, but she knew that the battle was far from over. The legal gray area only fueled the fire of the dispute. Despite the officer's attempt to defuse the situation, Mrs. Abernathy was not backing down. The revelation of Anna's true identity, instead of intimidating her, seemed to fuel her resolve. "I don't care if she's the President of the United States," she declared, her voice trembling with indignation. "She still has to follow the rules of this community. We all do." She insisted that the HOA rules were in place for a reason and that no one, regardless of their position or power, should be allowed to disregard them. She accused Anna of trying to use her influence to get special treatment and of setting a bad example for the rest of the community. "We can't let her get away with this," she said, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. "If we do, it will open the floodgates for everyone to start ignoring the rules. Our community will descend into chaos." She vowed to continue fighting until the helipad was removed, even if it meant taking the matter to court. She rallied her supporters, urging them to stand firm and to resist any attempts to compromise. Mrs. Abernathy's unwavering commitment to the HOA rules, even in the face of overwhelming odds, impressed some residents, while others saw her as being stubborn and unreasonable. But one thing was clear: she was not going to back down. The battle for Harmony Glades was far from over, and Mrs. Abernathy was determined to win. As the police officers were preparing to leave, a new wave of chaos descended upon Harmony Glades. A fleet of news vans pulled up to the community center, their satellite dishes gleaming in the afternoon sun. Reporters and camera crews swarmed the scene, eager to get the scoop on the sensational story that had just broken. Someone had leaked the story to the media, and it had quickly gone viral. "Senator vs. HOA, Helicopter Pad Dispute Rocks Suburban Community," the headlines screamed. The reporters descended upon the residents, thrusting microphones in their faces and peppering them with questions. "What do you think about the senator building a helipad? Do you think she's above the law? Is this a case of elitism and privilege?" The residents, caught off guard by the sudden media attention, responded with a mixture of excitement, anxiety, and confusion. Some eagerly shared their opinions, while others tried to avoid the cameras. Mrs. Abernathy, sensing an opportunity to further her cause, eagerly granted interviews, portraying Anna as a rule-breaking elitist who was trying to impose her will on the community. Anna, on the other hand, tried to remain calm and composed, reiterating her commitment to compromise and her respect for the community. The arrival of the media turned the already tense situation into a full-blown media circus. The Harmony Glades Community Center, once a symbol of suburban tranquility, had become the epicenter of a national news story. The battle for the helipad had just gone prime time. The "Helipadgate" saga quickly spread beyond Harmony Glades, igniting a fierce debate across the nation. Public opinion was sharply divided, with people taking sides based on their political leanings, their views on HOA rules, and their general attitudes towards authority. On social media, #TeamAnna and #TeamKaren hashtags began trending, each side passionately defending their position. Supporters of Anna argued that she was a dedicated public servant who needed the helipad to do her job effectively. They accused the HOA of being petty and unreasonable, of stifling innovation and progress. Some even suggested that Mrs. Abernathy was motivated by jealousy or personal animosity. On the other hand, supporters of Mrs. Abernathy praised her for standing up to a powerful politician and for defending the rights of ordinary citizens. They argued that HOA rules were essential for maintaining order and preserving property values. They accused Anna of being an elitist who thought she was above the law. Many shared stories of their own frustrating experiences with HOAs, seeing Mrs. Abernathy as a champion of the common homeowner. Newspapers and television networks ran countless stories about the dispute, often framing it as a battle between the powerful and the powerless, between progress and tradition, between individual freedom and community standards. The debate raged on, fueled by social media, cable news, and the endless appetite for controversy. Anna and Mrs. Abernathy had become symbols in a much larger cultural war. Faced with a rapidly escalating public relations disaster, Senator Anna decided to hold a press conference in front of her Harmony Glades home. She hoped to regain control of the narrative and to reassure her constituents that she was committed to finding a peaceful resolution to the dispute. Standing before a sea of reporters and cameras, Anna spoke with sincerity and humility. She acknowledged the concerns of her neighbors and apologized for any disruption that the helipad had caused. "I understand that my decision to build a helipad has raised some questions and concerns," she said. "And I want to assure everyone that I am committed to addressing those concerns and to finding a solution that works for everyone in our community." She emphasized her respect for the HOA rules and her willingness to work with the HOA to ensure that the helipad was safe, environmentally friendly, and did not negatively impact property values. She reiterated her offer to install noise-dampening equipment, limit the number of flights, and contribute to a community fund. "I believe that we can find a way to coexist peacefully," she said. "I am committed to being a good neighbor and to working together to make Harmony Glades an even better place to live." She concluded her remarks by urging everyone to tone down the rhetoric and to focus on finding common ground. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she was determined to bridge the divide and to restore harmony to her community. Anna's press conference, while well-intentioned, did little to quell the rising tide of criticism directed at the Harmony Glades HOA. In fact, it seemed to intensify the backlash. Many people saw the HOA's actions as an example of elitism and overreach, of a small group of individuals trying to impose their will on others. They accused the HOA of being out of touch with the real world and of prioritizing petty rules over common sense and fairness. Social media exploded with outrage, with people sharing stories of their own frustrating experiences with HOAs. They accused HOAs of being power-hungry, of abusing their authority, and of creating a culture of fear and intimidation. Some even called for boycotts of Harmony Glades, urging people not to buy homes in the community or to support local businesses. Others launched online petitions calling for the dissolution of the HOA or for the removal of Mrs. Abernathy and the other board members. The HOA's website was flooded with angry comments and negative reviews. The phone lines were jammed with complaints and threats. The HOA members, who had once prided themselves on maintaining order and harmony in their community, found themselves under siege. The tables had turned, and now they were the ones facing the wrath of public opinion. Under immense pressure from the media, the public, and even their own members, Anna and the HOA finally agreed to enter into formal negotiations. Both sides realized that the ongoing conflict was damaging their reputations and tearing the community apart. Anna appointed a team of lawyers and public relations experts to represent her interests. The HOA, in turn, formed a negotiating committee comprised of Mrs. Abernathy, Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Rodriguez, and a few other residents who were seen as being reasonable and open-minded. The negotiations were long and arduous, filled with tense discussions, heated arguments, and moments of near collapse. Both sides had to make significant concessions in order to reach a compromise. Anna agreed to limit the number of flights per week, to install state-of-the-art noise-dampening equipment, and to contribute a substantial sum to a community fund for local parks and recreation. The HOA, in turn, agreed to allow the helipad to remain, subject to certain restrictions and conditions. They also agreed to review their HOA rules to ensure that they were fair, reasonable, and not overly burdensome. The negotiations were a painful but necessary process. Both sides had to learn to listen to each other, to understand each other's concerns, and to find common ground. The future of Harmony Glades depended on it. After weeks of intense negotiations, Anna and the HOA finally reached a compromise. The agreement was complex and detailed, but it addressed the key concerns of both sides. The helipad itself would be modified to be smaller and less obtrusive. It would be painted a neutral color to blend in with the surrounding landscape. Anna would also install state-of-the-art noise-dampening equipment to minimize the impact on her neighbors. Strict usage rules would be implemented, limiting the number of flights per week and restricting flights to certain hours of the day. Anna would also be required to provide advance notice of her flights to the HOA so that residents could be informed. In addition to these restrictions, Anna agreed to provide significant community benefits. She would contribute a substantial sum to a fund for local parks and recreation, and she would also offer free helicopter rides to local students for educational purposes. The compromise was not perfect, and neither side got everything they wanted. But it was a workable solution that allowed Anna to keep her helipad while addressing the concerns of her neighbors. The agreement was hailed as a victory for common sense and compromise, a testament to the power of dialogue and understanding. Harmony Glades could finally begin to heal. In the aftermath of the compromise, Mrs. Abernathy, while still somewhat skeptical, extended a tentative olive branch to Anna. She approached the senator at a neighborhood barbecue, her clipboard conspicuously absent. "Senator Thompson," she said, her voice a bit softer than usual, I wanted to say that I may have misjudged you." She admitted that she had been so focused on enforcing the HOA rules that she had not fully appreciated Anna's position or her willingness to compromise. She also confessed that she had not realized that Anna was a real senator, not just the president of some club. "I still have some concerns about the helipad," she added quickly. "I'm worried about the noise, the safety, and the impact on our property values. But I appreciate your willingness to work with us and to address those concerns." She offered a grudging handshake, which Anna accepted with a warm smile. "Thank you, Eleanor," Anna said. "I appreciate that. I hope that we can put this behind us and move forward as neighbors." Mrs. Abernathy's apology was far from effusive, but it was a start. It was a small step towards healing the divisions that had plagued Harmony Glades for so long. The road to reconciliation would be long and difficult, but at least it had begun. In the months that followed, Anna went above and beyond to win over the Harmony Glades neighborhood. She was understanding and patient, always willing to listen to her neighbors' concerns and to address their questions. She made good on her promises, installing the noise-dampening equipment and adhering strictly to the usage rules. She also became actively involved in the community, volunteering at local schools, attending neighborhood events, and even joining the garden club, much to Mrs. Abernathy's surprise. She made sure that the community fund was used to improve local parks and recreation facilities, creating new playgrounds and walking trails for everyone to enjoy. And she kept her promise to offer free helicopter rides to local students, giving them a unique opportunity to learn about aviation and to see their community from a different perspective. Slowly but surely, Anna began to win over even the most skeptical residents. They saw that she was not an elitist trying to impose her will on them, but a genuine and caring neighbor who was committed to making their community a better place. The Helipadgate saga, once a source of division and conflict, became a symbol of reconciliation and understanding. Harmony Glades had learned a valuable lesson about the importance of communication, compromise, and community. And Anna had proven that even a helicopter pad could be a force for good. The Helipadgate saga taught Harmony Glades some valuable lessons about community, respect, and misunderstandings. They learned that community is not just about following rules and maintaining appearances, but about building relationships, fostering understanding, and working together to solve problems. They realized that even the strictest HOA rules should be subject to common sense and fairness. They learned that respect is a two-way street. It's about listening to each other's concerns, valuing each other's opinions, and treating each other with dignity, even when they disagree. They realized that judging others based on their appearance, their background, or their position is never a good idea. And they learned that misunderstandings can easily escalate into conflicts if they are not addressed promptly and honestly. They realized that communication is key to preventing misunderstandings and to building trust. Anna, too, learned some valuable lessons. She learned that even a well-intentioned project can cause unintended consequences if it is not properly communicated and if the concerns of others are not taken into account. She also learned that being a leader is not just about having power, but about using that power to serve others and to build a better world. The whole situation highlighted the importance of getting to know your neighbors and not assuming the worst. Inspired by her experiences in Harmony Glades, Anna decided to use her position as a senator to advocate for better HOA laws. She believed that HOAs played an important role in maintaining communities, but she also recognized that they could be prone to abuse and overreach. She introduced legislation to ensure that HOA rules were fair, reasonable, and transparent. She proposed measures to protect homeowners from arbitrary fines, unreasonable restrictions, and power-hungry board members. She also advocated for increased transparency and accountability in HOA operations. She proposed requiring HOAs to hold open meetings, to provide detailed financial statements to homeowners, and to establish clear procedures for resolving disputes. Her efforts were met with resistance from some HOA industry groups, who argued that her proposals would undermine the authority of HOAs and make it more difficult to manage communities effectively. But Anna persevered, building support for her legislation among homeowners, consumer advocates, and even some HOA leaders who recognized the need for reform. She held town hall meetings, gave speeches, and wrote op-eds, making the case for better HOA laws and highlighting the stories of homeowners who had been wronged by their HOAs. She wanted to ensure no one else had to go through what she and Harmony Glades had experienced. In Harmony Glades, the helicopter pad, once a source of division and conflict, eventually became a symbol of compromise and understanding. It served as a reminder that even the most seemingly intractable disputes can be resolved through communication, empathy, and a willingness to find common ground. It stood as a testament to the power of community and the importance of respecting each other's differences. The kids in the neighborhood, who had initially been thrilled by the novelty of the helicopter, grew up learning about the importance of following rules and respecting their neighbors. They also learned that even senators have to abide by community standards. Mrs. Abernathy, mellowed with age and experience, occasionally even accepted invitations to join Anna for a cup of tea and to watch the helicopter take off and land. She never fully embraced the helipad, but she came to appreciate its symbolic value. And Anna, whenever she flew off to Washington, D.C., always made sure to wave to her neighbors, a reminder that even a United States senator is just another member of the community, committed to serving her constituents and to making the world a better place, one helicopter ride at a time. The helipad was no longer just a landing pad, it was a bridge.